You're watching WGBS News Metropolis.
So that was the first time that you worked on film?
I had maybe walked by a camera in the background. That's about the extent of it. But I'd been training in LA for years. But that was the first time, and felt completely lost. I mean, it really was much more challenging than I expected it to be, the technical side of the work. And if we get around to talking about other aspects of making the film, I'll talk about some things that also made it very much a challenge.
Well, now you guys, now granted the budget for Superman 4 was a little bit less than the previous installments, but you guys are working on a TV budget with your stuff. And what was working with effects like for you on the kind of the quick schedule and maybe not such a high budget?
You know, honestly, we had some of the best directors and producers, and every year it just got better and better. I don't know exactly what kind of a budget they were working on, but they just did some awesome work. I mean, if you've seen the show, I can't say enough about how much they put into it. 16-hour days. I mean, we worked 16-hour days. You know, and we were on a tight budget because we knew once we were over 8 hours and the executive producer would come around the corner and we're like, oh, we must be in overtime. Here comes Barry. And he's like, get these actors out of here. What are you doing? It was just, but it was, you never know they were on a tight budget. You know, most of the show was shot on location, shot basically with 2 cameras. And yeah, it's just, you never know they were on a low budget.
Great. We got any more questions out here? Maybe we got another one in the front row here.
My question is for Mark. What kind of physical training did you have to do prior to the actual shooting of the film when it came to the flying scenes and the fight scenes and stuff like that?
I'd been training, I'd met Arnold and Ferrigno and all those guys in the years up to that, and lived in Santa Monica. So I was around that culture already. And I trained a little Muay Thai boxing, so I knew a little bit about the movement. And then, as far as the flying, I skydive and I hang glide, so I was feeling fairly comfortable being in a harness. And then it's pretty much just trying to look like I was comfortable doing it and making it real. And that took a lot of practice. That actually, in making the film, that takes the most time. Is all the flying shots in front of a green screen. It was months of that type of work. And it's retake after retake. And Chris's back in the end was a mess from holding that position.
So was it? So it was definitely the hardest part of the experience. What was the best part? I mean, what do you look back on and go? You know, that was like the great day on the set that I really just kind of came back going, yeah, that was cool.
Lunches were great. Sitting with Gene Hackman and just listening. The stories. You can sit for 4 hours and not say a word. Just stare at him and listen to him talk about, and Chris talk about things. It was the coldest winter in 50 years in England. So moving between sets, and it was bitterly cold. I mean, those times when hanging from the wires outside on that Great Wall of China scene, and skin just completely blue, and the camera people asking, are we picking up blue on him? He's not supposed to be blue. So it was cold. But anything just hanging 100 feet above the ground, watching all the fun down below was memorable, certainly.
Now, seeing as you were involved in the Superboy series for so long and the character is recurring, did you have any sort of input as far as the direction that the shows took, or did you make suggestions or say, hey, this would be kind of a cool idea for an episode? Did you get to do any of that?
Yeah, I kind of had a reputation on the show of Sherman and I we kind of went off on our own sometimes, you know, and we ad-libbed a lot, and they would just, there they go again, and I was also known as Last Line Tracy, because I always had to have the last line, whether it was written in the script or not, I was throwing it in there. And Sherman would challenge me, he'd say things, I'm like, nope, you're getting the last line in, and, but they always kept it, and that was what was great about the show is, they were so laid back. They really gave us a lot of freedom to do what we wanted to do. They let us bring to the show what we wanted to bring to the show, and they didn't have any problems with that. So it was great. It was fabulous. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. But Sherman, who plays Lex Luthor, actually wrote. If you guys come to the show tonight, Darla Goes Ballistic, he actually wrote that for me, which was very, very generous of him. And several of the, Gerard, he wrote and produced and directed a couple of episodes. They really did give the actors a lot of input, and they let them, if they had an idea or whatever, they would always listen and they'd take it in. So it was great.
Excellent.
It was great.
For you as a person involved in the production, it's much better to be able to participate in the process as opposed to just being the meat puppet. Go stand there, say this line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and so speaking of the episode that you're referring to, let's let everybody know about what's going to be happening tonight.
Yeah, we're going to show Darla Goes Ballistic tonight. So any of you haven't seen it or just like to see it again, and I'll have a little surprise for you guys tonight when you come. So
Yes.
come out.
And after Darla Goes Ballistic,
Yes, I will be introducing Superman for the Quest for Peace. So a chance to sit down and watch this.
so who wants to
And we're
see?
just going to kick back and have some wine.
That's right. Don't mind us.
So yeah, this is a great opportunity, guys, to be able to sit and experience these things with the people who actually participated in the process. So make it a point of checking that out. Check your programs. I believe it starts at 7 o'clock tonight.
7:30?
7:30?
I'm not sure. Check your program.
We'll double check the
Please,
times,
yeah.
but yes, make sure you check that out because it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be, go down to Artist Alley, get your tickets early because it will sell out. It's going to fill up. Absolutely. Any more questions in the audience? Sir, we've got one right back here.
Thank you. Mr. Pillow, I want to ask you something. About Christopher Reeve, one of the saddest things in my life is I couldn't get in touch with him, and he died. But I want to ask you about the stories around, the urban stories around the filming of Superman 4. He was very, I don't know how to say in English, sorry,
Disappointed?
No. The other thing, he was compromised with the movie. He was so involved more than the other 3 movies. I read that he was like his personal project. What do you feel about Christopher Reeve compromise with the movie, for Superman 4 especially? Because there are about 4 years after the last Superman movie. And I read this was his personal project. He was involved in filming, he was involved with ideas,
Yeah.
he cooperated with Lawrence Conner and Mel Rosenthal.
Yeah.
What is your experience of the love of Christopher Reeve for this filming project?
On that subject, I have something to add. Yesterday, the first time I watched the commentary with Mark Rosenthal. I don't know if you've listened to it on the DVD, where you watch the film and actually he describes things. And there's so many things that I didn't know had gone on in that film. And when I listened to Mark speak about it, my daughter said, "He sounds bitter." I said, "No, I used the word disappointed. I think they had such high hopes for it. They really wanted to address this idea of nuclear disarmament, and if it can be ended, why didn't Superman just end it?" So this was a chance to do that. So I did feel he was very much involved. He shot all the second unit stuff, all the fight on the moon he shot. But now looking back, I now kind of explains to me why at times he seemed a bit distant or would be irritated by things, knowing now that the budget had been cut in half. A lot of things that he wanted to do were removed. The first Nuclear Man, Clyde Mantle, was wonderful. So I did sense that something wasn't quite right. And it's odd when you're 27 years old, your first film, you tend to think, well, maybe it's something I'm not doing for him. But it was not the case at all. It was much bigger than that. But this was very much a pet project for him, and I think he would love to have been what he envisioned.
Stay tuned to WGBS-TV.